Right, it's 8:30. Now it's time to start looking back at the Aberdour Festival of 2011 that happened at the end of July and the beginning of August. Now, Radio West Fife has been covering quite a few of these events. It's probably one of the most prestigious festivals on the Fife calendar. And we actually begin our journey with Tuesday, where we see the bands by the Sands. Now, we're looking retrospectively on it. And the first person that is probably the best person to speak about it is Jayne Willis, who was the organiser and one of the committee members of the Aberdour Festival. And she organised the Bands by the Sands. And I was speaking to her about 2 to 3 weeks ago. And I began by asking her, where did the idea of Bands by the Sands come about?
We bands nights at the festival annually, and I had no part to do with that. But they've mainly been for younger people. But I was suggesting at the Aberdour Festival committees that there's nothing really targeted for like 17, 18-year-olds, well, 16, 17s, because they're kind of stuck in the middle.
Well, as long as you've cornered your target market, basically, then well, that's not too much of a problem. But what really intrigues me is the choice of location for this. This was the Marquee Stands. Now, Bands by the Sands. It wasn't quite near the Sands, was it?
No, but we thought we'd play with the name. But yeah, you could have wandered off to Silver Sands, although it wasn't the best of days. But it was just really nice. In the Marquee, I think it was a nice setting. And
why did you choose to do the Marquee Stand rather than doing it actually on the Silver Sands beach?
Well, it was already set up, so it wouldn't have cost us too much extra, and just the fact that it could have rained and that would have put a lot of people off, and the instruments and everything. We wanted the bands to be happy, like not getting damaged or anything.
I see. Well, you got to keep the bands happy, I suppose. And I suppose with the night that I actually came on, it looked a little questionable whether it was whether a lot of people were going to go ahead with it.
Yeah, a lot of the bands came a lot later and everything because the times were a bit mucked up, but it was all fine in the end.
As long as the end result's great, I suppose that's the main thing. But just give us for those who have not been to the Bands by the Sands, just tell us what the format of the night was.
First of all, we had Frontrunner, who were my personal friends, and they were really good. But because the time messed up on the poster, we had to have Stanley play a little bit beforehand, but we only let them on for 5-10 minutes. And then Frontrunner played, and then Streetlight, who are also my friends, and they're really good. They did a bit of acoustic, and also they had their band, which was their first time. Then we had Clark and Bodge, who were two guys who played acoustically, who were really good. And then we stepped up. We had Stanley and State of Emergency, who were amazing. But we also had to incorporate, the day before, I was asked to incorporate another band called Run Lucky Free.
Oh, yes.
Were also really good because they had a female singer, which gave variety to the night. But for next time, I think we'd cut it down a bit because the licence had been bought only for 11, so the bar shut at 11, so a lot of people lost interest at that point and wanted to head off to the pubs.
Well, I suppose if there's drinks going away, then you would lose interest. So it's the only way to get them in. But how did you get Run Lucky Free and Stanley involved? Because they're quite big unsigned bands, aren't they?
Yeah, Stanley's manager, Steve Amos, who helped me a lot with the publicity and everything, he approached me, and so I listened to them online, and I thought they were really good. So I contacted them through Steve, and with Run Lucky Free, they helped a lot with the sound engineering. So I was given their contact details, so I phoned them, and we worked out a time slot for them and squeezed them in. All the bands were good. They were just so different, so everybody had something they liked, and then some people probably disliked some other bands. But
were you just trying to cover as many genres as possible then?
Yeah, I thought we'd give it a bit of variety, and just keep it interesting for everyone, because a lot of people are put off bands nights thinking they're too punky for them or something. But because there was acoustic and everything, it was just like really good. And at the end, everyone was dancing to State of Emergency.
Uh-huh.
So it was a good atmosphere.
It was a good atmosphere. And there was also cover bands as well as unsigned ones, weren't they?
Well, they all did a few covers. Frontrunner did a few covers, which were good. And State of Emergency did a lot of covers, but it kept the crowds going. I was really happy with them, because a lot of people had gone by that time. Yeah, overall, I'm quite chuffed with it. We made a profit because a lot of people attended it all just at the door, because not many people had purchased tickets beforehand. So it was a bit worrying. You never really know. But because it was publicised reasonably well, we contacted the radio and things. A lot of people did attend.
And I suppose with the weather, as I said earlier on, the weather didn't exactly help matters either.
No, it did kind of clear up, but it probably would have helped if it was a nicer day, yeah.
But how many people actually turned up on the night then?
I think it was around 200. I never actually got to find that one out, but we did cover our costs, so we did have about 100.
Oh, I see, right. So wasn't the target about 90, so you really exceeded your target then?
We did, yeah. Oh, that was before the new band was incorporated, though, because we had to take in account their money as well. But we were aiming for like around 100, and that's how many people said they would attend on Facebook. But I'm pretty sure we doubled that. Oh,
that's pretty good then. That's actually fantastic. So as long as you make a profit and you cover your costs, then that's all that really matters, really.
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to be having help from funding, but they didn't contact us back in time.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't have any help, so that was a bit worrying. But through ticket costs alone, we were okay.
But you managed to pull it off.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Now, you do a college course at Adam Smith. You do an HND in events management. So how does this tie in with your course?
Well, that was the reason I helped out with the Aberdour Festival in the first place, because I'm doing a work experience part of the course. So we had to do a certain amount of hours and then we just had to prove that we'd helped out in an event. And I knew Kate Brown from Aberdour, who always helps out with the Aberdour Festival. So I contacted her, and she said that I could help out with the band's night. But due to personal issues, Kate couldn't really help with the band's night towards the end. So it was all left on my shoulders, so it was a bit worrying. But I had loads of help from Steve Amos and Roy Devon and things, so it was okay.
So you were kind of almost chucked in the deep end, as it were.
Yeah, well, I'd never arranged anything like that before. And a band's night as well. I don't really know all the technical terms or the sound engineering terms and things, so...
So it was basically a big learning curve then?
It was, yeah. I've experienced a lot. I've learnt a lot from this, so it's definitely helped me with my course.
What have you exactly learnt from doing Bands by the Sands?
Just to be organised. The budget's really important. Trying to keep all the bands happy was probably the most difficult bit, because nobody wants to go first. Nobody wants a shorter time slot. A lot of bands couldn't make it for the sound check, which made it difficult and stressful. You've got to make sure that all the licenses are up to date, and well, the bar was a big problem. I would have ensured that that didn't stop at 11, because that was our main problem. The alcohol, basically.
Basically, but so there was lots and lots of factors involved in events management. But give us an idea in general how complicated events management is, because it's not as easy as you think it is.
No, a lot of people think, why would you need an events manager? Because they can organise events themselves. But it is really difficult. You do have to be really organised. I had to email loads of band managers and try and contact everyone and try and bargain a price and everything. So you do have to be on your toes, and you have to remember everything, write everything down, because if you lose any information, it can't be good. There's loads of things to it. It's stressful. The thing is, from a past little organised events that I've done, when I've organised it too early, people forget about it, especially with Facebook and things. So you've got to do it kind of reasonably close, because they'll say they'll attend, like on Facebook, a couple of months beforehand, and they'll forget all about it by the time it actually comes. So you've just got to keep annoying people, reminding them.
Yeah, be in their faces, basically. Oh, we do that all the time here at Radio West Fife, basically.
Yeah.
But, so, if you're better organised next year, would you be willing to do Bands by the Sands again next year for next year's festival?
Yeah, I would be. I don't know if I'll be wanted again, hopefully, yeah.
But hopefully you can return in some form of capacity.
Yeah, definitely. So, but it is worth it at the end of the day. When you do make a success, you're proud of yourself.
Exactly. So, well, Jayne, thanks very much for coming on to Radio West Fife to talk about that with us. And
thank you for having me.
Not at all. So that was Jayne Willis, the organiser for Bands by the Sands. And I was speaking to her about 3 weeks ago about that. And thank you very much, Jayne, for coming on to talk about that. Now, continuing with the coverage of Bands by the Sands and Aberdour Festival, it's time to get a perspective from a couple of the unsigned bands that were there. And now I'm going to be speaking to Alasdair Shaw from Frontrunner about how his band, who had just got back together after a brief hiatus, how they got on with Bands by the Sands and what's in store for them in the future. So this was one of the first gigs that you've done ever since you've reformed, isn't that right?
Yes, we went on a break as everybody disappeared off to uni and college and so on last year. So we just decided this summer we'd have a bit of a reunion, and that was our first gig back. We've been practicing for a few weeks, not with gigs in mind, just with sort of look to just having a bit of fun. And the gig offer came up, so we took it, and we were really pleased with how it went.
And how did it feel to be back on stage?
Oh, it was good fun. I mean, we've never really taken ourselves too seriously, so there weren't any nerves or anything like that. We just went out there and had a bit of fun. Oh,
so it was just really going in and just having a good time, basically.
Exactly. We've never, well, certainly not me. I don't know about the other guys. I think maybe Andrew and Richard, because they're the kind of the main songwriters. So they might have ambitions beyond just playing for fun. But certainly for me, I just enjoy playing on stage.
Now, you did mention that you reformed. Tell us about Jetstream.
Well, there's no real difference between Jetstream and Frontrunners. We essentially just changed our name just because we don't know, we felt like we changed in style maybe slightly, just different influences and stuff, and also just we weren't really a fan of the name originally. It was just we needed a name, so we went with it before. So it was Richard's idea. He came up with a few, and we thought, yeah, we all liked the name, so we just went with it. Jetstream existed in 2009 when we were all in 6th year. We played a few gigs in November, December time, just about Dunfermline, and we played a gig at our school as well. But we'd left it for about a year and a half, December 2009 to summer 2011. So we felt like we were maybe a slightly different entity to what we were, so a name change seemed, fairly appropriate. In what ways do you feel that you're different to what you were in your first incarnation, if you like? I think we've matured a bit as songwriters. We can. I think before, when we started out, often it was just kind of they played it to us, and then we kind of, worked out as a band. Whereas now we're all kind of chipping into the songwriting process a bit more. Taking suggestions from all around and working together a lot better, I think. Also, I think maybe the style has changed a bit as well. We're kind of maybe a bit more. I don't know. It seems a bit more of a mature songwriting style. Like we're not just kind of thrashing out on the guitars all at the same time. We're kind of breaking it down, making it a bit more balanced. Yeah, I think the atmosphere is a lot better as well. I think tensions were running quite high at the time before we kind of broke off for a bit, and maybe being away from each other for a while has done us good. Just kind of so we can come back and work from a more mature angle, like you say.
Just giving you the opportunity to simmer down and just actually get on with the work, basically. But,
exactly, yeah.
But what exactly caused the split? You did mention there was tensions in there. Could you just give us a very...
No, it wasn't. That maybe makes it sound a bit more...
Yeah.
It wasn't. I wouldn't call it a split. It was more just like we put it on ice. First and foremost, Andrew, our singer slash lead guitarist, needed to focus on his exams because unlike Richard and me, we'd already got the grades to get into uni, so Andrew on the other hand hadn't, so he really wanted to focus on revising, and he spent a lot of his time out of school studying, and he didn't feel like he wanted to dedicate the time to band practices and doing gigs and things. You know, at the time it was a bit annoying. We had a gig offer to play at the Alhambra as a support band, but we had to turn it down because of Andrew's commitments to his exams. But you know, at the time it was difficult. But you know, looking back, it all makes sense. And Andrew's got into uni, and that's all great. It's a shame, but you know, there was no. It's understandable. We can't blame him for that.
Of course.
And we moved on.
So when exactly did you guys kind of reformed, if you like? It wasn't too recent, was it?
Well, we talked about it at the start of the summer once everybody was back home from uni. Andrew and Richard were in Stirling, I was in Glasgow. We talked about getting back together, just kind of casually, and Richard did some investigating to see if we could get our old practice space back at Tower House, which is where we practiced before, and we also played a gig there. But there were no slots available at a reasonable time for us because Jamie, our drummer, has like a part-time job, and I think things were interfering, so we couldn't get a slot there. So we tried somewhere else at the substation in Rosyth, which is a converted church, I believe. Anyway, it's a really good centre, and just simultaneously to that, this the bands by the Sands offer came along, and we thought, well, this is perfect. We've been practicing enough songs that we think we can put together a decent set list, and the offer came along at just the right time as we felt like we were getting ready for the gig, and so it worked out perfectly for us.
So right time, right place, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a nice offer to have that along, and we were happy to take it.
Now with you reforming, are you reforming for permanently? You're going to really go for this in the long term, or is this just really for the summer?
Well, it's probably for the summer. I mean, it's just not. Unfortunately, it's just not feasible having it being a permanent affair, just with our uni commitments with Richard and Andrew and me being in different parts of the country. So there's not much we can do about it. I mean, we're kind of, Richard and Andrew are just kind of in the casual songwriting stage again, because last time when we did the gigs, as soon as we did the gigs, we took a break and went back to the basics of writing new songs. Andrew and Richard are the main songwriters, so they're at the moment just kind of, you know, informally jamming out new songs and stuff like that, working things out. And when they feel they've got enough to bring to the table, we'll go back to full band practice sessions and maybe...
So there's no real concrete plans, it's just take each step as it goes, yeah?
Exactly. We've never thought about it too much. It's not something that we think... we've never taken it too seriously, but at the same time, we are all committed to it while it lasts, and we all enjoy it.
And just to give people an idea of, if anyone hasn't heard of you, Frontrunner, what's your influences and what sort of style of music that you do? It's kind of rock and indie sort of kind of music, isn't it?
Yeah, we've all got kind of classic rock influences. Like we do a cover of Lenny Kravitz. We all quite enjoy that sort of sound, you know, like sort of 60s, 70s rock music. But we also kind of, you know, we have our vague influences of kind of modern stuff, Arctic Monkeys, that sort of sound, but we don't take influence from any particular artist because we all have fairly varied tastes, so it's just kind of what sounds good to our ears, really. Yeah, I don't really know. It's hard to put things into boxes. I mean, I don't think we have a particularly kind of indie sound, if that means anything, but just kind of straight up rock music, rock and roll kind of thing. I don't know.
Now, you did say there's no real concrete plans about what Frontrunner will do in the future, but if whether you do it for fun or or you do it in a more serious way, would you be interested in coming back to Bands by the Sands next year if there was another gig?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's a perfect time for us all because everyone's back. We all want, something to look forward to in the summer, and that would just be great. And
just finally, how can we find out more about Frontrunner on the internet?
Right, well, we do now have a Facebook page, eventually, that we put together, which is, you can get it at facebook.com/FrontrunnerFife.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a few kind of videos of old gigs and stuff. We've not got any solid recordings that we can put up, just because we've not recorded anything. But there are some vague live recordings that I'm sure you can watch, and there's info that you can read up about us if you so desire.
There's plenty to enjoy, and fingers crossed that we might actually see a bit more of Frontrunner over the coming months. So, Alasdair Shaw, thanks very much for coming on to Radio West Fife to talk about your time at Bands by the Sands.
My pleasure.
Alasdair Shaw of Frontrunner talking to me a couple of weeks ago about their time at Bands by the Sands. Right, okay, we're continuing with the Aberdour Festival coverage of Bands by the Sands, and now let's flip the coin over to a more a band that's been around a bit more recently, and they're gaining popularity, and they've only just had their EP out for the last month or so, Pace of the World, and we just had a little catch-up chat with Patrick Wallace from Streetlight. How did Bands by the Sands go for you?
Probably the best gig we've ever played, Matthew. It went fantastically well. It was really good to have the full band set up. We had a fantastic sound and a massive crowd. And we got really, really good feedback from the crowd, and the crowd was buzzing. So, yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves.
So, apart from obviously being the best in terms of performance, what else did it make that the best gig that you've ever done so far?
I like the fact that it was in my hometown in Aberdour. We never really played a gig in Aberdour before. So apart from the festival last year, but in such a big scale by beach, it was just a really nice setting for the gig. Mm-hmm. And the other bands we were playing with were fantastic. There wasn't a weak performance at all night. So yeah, it was a great night.
What's it like to perform in your hometown? What feelings do you get from that?
It's a bit strange because lots of the songs are about my hometown. And I've been inspired by my hometown, so it's quite nice to bring them back and sing it where it all started,
This was also the one where we got to see Streetlight as a band.
Yeah, not just a duo. Yeah, we've recruited a drummer and a bassist, and I think it adds so much to the performance. It's great.
Just tell us a bit more about the new band members.
Well, we've got our bassist, is my little brother, Ali, who's 14, and I'd only been playing bass for 3 weeks before the gig, but we decided to teach him the parts, and he did brilliantly learning them. And he did fantastically. Really surprised everyone, including himself. And but he turned out a fantastic performance. And if he's playing bass this well at the moment, then it's quite scary to think how good he'll be in a year's time.
And teaching him to do that in 3 weeks, so you basically chucked him in the deep end then?
Yeah. Not much else to say on that.
just the Streetlight way, basically.
Yep.
So is there a lot of sibling rivalry in the sort of jamming sessions and band practices?
Yeah, sometimes you get a bit annoyed at each other, but in general, I think it's quite nice because obviously when I'm back home, me and Ali can practice whenever we like. We can write new stuff. You can come up with bass lines, and yeah, I think it works really nicely to have brothers in the band. Most of the best bands in Scotland just now have brothers in them, like Frightened Rabbit and Biffy Clyro. So hopefully we can follow on from that. So
it's almost like, in some ways, like Oasis, but the relationship's less volatile.
We're 10 million times better than Oasis.
And tell us more about the other ones as well. I believe you've got Callum Finlay as the drummer, I believe.
Yeah. We asked him if he asked Callum if he fancied doing a couple of shows with us, just as our kind of EP release shows. And we decided to see how it went. And we all had a great time. We loved playing with the drummer. It brought so much more to the performance. And after a wee chat, we decided that we would recruit Callum as well. So we've got a 4-piece band now, which is fantastic.
How's Pace of the World selling? How's that coming along?
Well, at Bands by the Sands, we sold every copy that we brought down.
And how many was that?
We brought about 30 CDs down, and they sold within 3 hours. So
3 hours?
yeah, we're going to have to go back to the printing company soon and get some more done. Yeah, and it's always good to have CDs to sell at gigs and stuff like that. And we'll be sending a few of them away to record companies as well and see how it goes.
Yeah, I did see that on your Facebook page, facebook.com/Streetlight Acoustic. Just tell us about what record companies are you looking to impress?
We're not targeting the big guns, like Sony, Virgin, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. For the sake of, there's not much chance of you getting them. We're targeting kind of smaller indie kind of unsigned record labels are committed to taking unsigned talent from Britain. And there's quite a few in England and Scotland that we're looking at now. Basically,
kind of like independent local record labels then?
Yeah, I'd say regional rather than local. Yeah, British independent record label, yeah.
Are you hopeful that you'll get an offer or two, or are you just putting that out as...
I think we're good enough, and I think the CD's recorded to high enough quality. I do regret that we don't have the drums in the CD. But, that's life.
Are there any other plans for the future now? We obviously know that Ross is going away to Canada and Streetlight are now going to become this sort of 4-piece or 3-4-piece band. So where does Streetlight go for the next 6+ months?
Well, we've decided collectively as a group that when Ross goes to Canada, we're going to concentrate more on the kind of networking publicity side to Streetlight.
Uh-huh.
I'll be writing, hopefully, the contents to another EP, which we might try and release next year, and then we'll look towards doing an album.
I see.
But these few months while Ross goes away is really just going to be for us to spread the word, really kind of try and get ourselves noticed online, and sell the CDs, and maybe play a couple of shows as the 3-piece, but we'd rather have Ross on board, obviously.
We'd be very, very interested to keep up to date with your progress. So just give us a reminder of where we can find out more about Streetlight.
Sure, no problem. We mainly use our Facebook page now. That's kind of where all the activity's at, which is www.facebook.com/Streetlight Acoustic, all one word. Or you can send the band an email for bookings or banter on prstreetlight@gmail.com.
Excellent. And a very subtle email address, because you could read that 2 ways, basically.
And what do you mean?
Well, you could read that as Patrick or public relations. Sorry, it's just a little sad little thing I noticed.
I never even noticed that, Matthew, but you are a genius. That is absolutely right.
Genius in inverted commas, some people say, but no, seriously. So that's prstreetlight@gmail.com if you want to book Streetlight, and of course facebook.com/Streetlight Acoustic is where you can find out the latest news, along with their link to their Twitter page if you tweet like me. Now, Patrick, I could talk to you about various other things that have been going on with you, but sadly we're running out of time, and I think we'll just leave it till later.
Not a problem, son.
Patrick Wallace, thank you very much for coming on to Radio West Fife.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope to hear from all your listeners.
And that was Patrick Wallace from Streetlight talking to me a couple of weeks ago about Streetlight's future and their progress and outcome of the Bands by the Sands performance there. What their best gig to date, according to Patrick.